this is going to be a how-to video on how to do your control arms, upper control arm, and your lower ball joint. Comes with a cool little pin, so you're good in case you break your other one. You got fresh nuts. Fresh nuts. It's going to be on a 97 Chevrolet Silverado K1500. It's going to be the exact same procedure on anything from an 89 all the way up to a 98 Silverado or Suburban. It's going to be the exact same procedure, exact same tools, exact same parts. The tools you're going to need, you may ask why you need some of these, and you're going to find out. You're going to need a mallet, rubber mallet. You're going to need a regular hammer, pair of pliers, crescent wrench. You're going to need an actual socket wrench, another socket wrench, maybe, depending on which one you want to use. Crescent wrench, you're going to need an extension. You're going to need a 21mm socket, a 18 millimeter socket, so 21mm, 18mm, and a 7/8mm socket, along with a 13 socket, a little tiny baby 8, 1/2 inch, flathead, ratchet strap, a big huge Allen key, a big 1-inch, and then you're going to need a nice big 38-inch socket. I have all these little extenders on here in order to make it work for my small socket wrench. If you have the big one, you're not going to need all that, but if you don't, like me, you're going to need all that, so that way you can hook it onto there. And if you can't get that in there, you're going to need this one so you can make it even bigger. You're going to need a breaker bar. You're also going to need a ball joint separator, which you can rent from AutoZone, which we did. You're going to need, if yours is 4x4 like mine, which they won't tell you, which we messed up yesterday and it took an extra 4 hours, so I'm telling you right now. You're going to need a 4x4 adapter set that goes with your ball joint press set, all of which you're going to borrow from your local O'Reilly's or AutoZone, Napa, whatever you may have around you. So these parts right here are all going to be borrowed from the store unless you buy them. This is your ball joint puller set. This is your 4x4 adapter, which you're going to need with it, which they won't tell you. And then you're going to need your ball joint separator. You're going to need all that. So let's go ahead, and before we jack up the truck, it's very important that you loosen all your lug nuts and you loosen up your axle nut, because if you don't loosen up your axle nut, when you take off your tire, you're going to have a hell of a time, as we found out yesterday. So the first thing you want to do, if you got one of those, is you pop it off. So when you break this loose, you're going to need a big old breaker bar or an impact gun. An impact gun works the best, so that way you're not messing up your tools, but I don't have an impact gun, so I'm going to have to do it this way. Don't use a small socket wrench because you will break it. You get a nice big one, get a nice breaker bar in here, give it a nice big bam, and it'll break loose. And so once that is broken loose, go ahead and just get it a little bit of the ways. You don't have to go all the way off with it right now, just loose. And then once you do that, you're going to take off the lug nuts on all the tires, get the tire pulled off, or the tire loosened, so that way you can jack it up, and then take the tire off and work on taking the brake caliper off. After you have all your lugs taken off, or not off but loosened, then you're going to go ahead and jack it up, take them all the way off, and get the tire removed. Make sure you're always safe and you're putting a jack stand underneath of the vehicle. Alright, once you have your jack stand underneath and your front jack off, you always want to give it a little bit of a shake test. Make sure that it's not going to fall off the stand. She looks pretty solid. Now what you're going to want is you're going to want your big Phillips head, or Allen key, I'm sorry, in order to get off the caliper. Right down here is going to be where the Allen key fits into. There's going to be one here, and there's going to be one on the bottom. You loosen that one, you loosen this one, and the caliper should come off from there. Old trick I use in case you ever wonder what way to go on these, because they are opposite sometimes to way, especially because it's facing that way in the vehicle. So I will grab a regular socket wrench, set it to its loose mode, test it, make sure it is loose, and I'll put it the direction that it should go, And now we know that that way is going to be the loose side. So we'll get this guy and get some gloves on. That's always good. Now you get your little rubber mallet and just work on getting that off, because it's kind of stuck if it is. Now you're going to want something to hold this guy. Most people would tie it up over here or something. I prefer to just put a little stool here, put that on top of it, and just set that guy right on there like that. Make sure there's no tension on the line. My particular truck, because I have big steel lines on here, I have them tied back. If yours are that way, make sure that you do tie them back the way that they should go. This guy is going to end up needing to come off to get this loose, otherwise it will end up pulling it. So we're just going to take this one little bolt off here because we're going to replace the entire arm. And this is where your 13 millimeter is going to come in handy. It's going to go right on top there. Your ½ inch is going to go on the bottom once you break it loose. So once it's loose, the bottom will start spinning. Put your ½ inch underneath of it. Alright, let's get that loose. Bolt will fall out. This will come loose. You don't necessarily need this bolt if you're replacing the whole control arm like I am, because it's going to come with new ones. Just need to make sure that this is loose and out of the way, because this is going to end up coming out. Next thing we want to do here is we want to take off the top or the bottom bolt that is connecting this top control arm to it. But in order to get the top control arm off, once you get to this point, you're going to need to take this little bolt off that's on the bottom. There's going to be a little pin inside of it, a little cotter pin. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get this little cotter pin out of here. The best way to do that is to first get in here, and you have to even this guy out. Try to get it as even as you can with those two little notches there, so you can start pushing it through. Once you get it through a little bit, you grab it from the other side and you pull it on through. And there you go, there's your pin. Like I said, don't worry if this one gets too mangled up, because they will give you a new one with the new bolt. So once that is out, now we need to go in here and we need to get this bolt off the bottom. That is where your big 1 inch is going to come in handy. Go that way and loosen it. That right there is why you want gloves, because they'll just pop loose. You'll end up smacking your hand on something. Okay, once that bolt is out, just put it to the side. Alright, now comes the fun part, because now what we need to do is we need to get this out of here. So the best way to do that is to get the separator here that you would have borrowed from O'Reilly's or AutoZone. And you use your metal mallet here. You're going to get this underneath this ball joint. There's going to be a little boot that's going to want to make it a little difficult, but that's okay. One thing you're going to want to remember that I almost forgot, there's a lot of tension on this bottom control arm here. So you're going to actually want to jack underneath of this, because when this comes off, it may want to fall down. Depending on what vehicle you have. Just hold that control arm up like that. That way we know that it's not going to fall out. There it goes. A whole lot of pounding later, it will go all the way through and pop out. Once it does that, you should be able to just pull it up, out of the way. Now is why you loosen this axle nut beforehand. Just to try to do this, see how it spins? There's no way you're doing it with it on here. If it's already loose, you can hold it, loosen it the rest of the way. This nut, you will not get a new one, so be careful with it. There's also going to be a little washer on the bottom of it that you want to make sure not to lose. So what we'll do first, before we even get to all that, is we're going to take off the top control arm, because everything's ready for the bottom control arm now. So we're just going to show you how to do the top one. You're going to need to take this bolt off here. You're going to need to take this bolt off here. Now there's little plates on both sides of these that you're going to want to make sure is marked, because they have to go back in the exact same spot. You can use chalk, you can use nail polish, whatever you want to use. Today we're going to use some fancy blue nail polish. We're gonna get in here, we're just gonna mark the little piece along with where it goes, so that way we know it's gonna go back right there. We're gonna do a quick time lapse while I take off this bolt and this bolt. These will slide out and this entire piece will come out. And that is your upper control arm right here. And the reason why you replace these is because not only are the bushings really bad on here, but this ball joint right here, look at that. That should not be like that. It should be nice and tight. That is way too loose. And that is why we are replacing them. With your nice new control arm, this thing barely even moves. Like, you really got to push it in order for it to move. And that's how it should be. It should not be as loose as the last one was. And if you're just replacing this ball joint, then skip forward a little bit to when I do the bottom ball joint, because it's going to be the exact same procedure if it's just the ball joint and not the whole control arm. Now, the thing to note is the entire control arm will only cost you $30, maybe $40 more than the ball joint. It's a much easier job to do, and you get the entire setup. Whereas if you just get the ball joint, then you got to actually take it out and do all that. It's still the exact same amount of work to get in here. One thing to note, though, is with the bottom ball joint, the reason we're not replacing the entire control arm like we are up here to make it easier is because the bottom is much harder. It has all the torsion bars and all that in it. So when it comes to the bottom, it is easier to just do the ball joint, whereas the top, it's easier to just do the entire control arm. So after you do that, now your upper control arm is installed and it's just waiting to be put back in the hub. Now if you were just doing your upper control arm or your upper ball joint from here, all you would do is you would put this back through here, put your nut back on it, throw a cotter pin on it, and slap it all back together. But since we're doing the bottom as well, now we're going to take our attention to the bottom of the ball joint. And so you're going to need the same thing we did to get the top one out. You need this guy to press it, but first we have to take the pin out and the bolt out. When your 7/8 socket is going to come into play. We talked about it first. You put it on there. You have your set that you borrowed from AutoZone. You're going to get whichever one fits over that ball joint and up on here. Okay. On my truck, it so happens to be the biggest one they have, so we got lucky there. Okay. Once you do that, this guy is going to go through here, tighten in a little bit. Little piece of crap right here that you're supposed to basically put it on here like this and pound it into there. Now yesterday we did the other side and we realized this is a piece of crap and it sucks, and you have really not much room to pound it right here from here to here. And there's no way you're going to get it in there. These are pressed. I'm not sure why they gave this to you. Maybe if you have a smaller vehicle it would work, but if you're working on a big 4x4 like mine, this will not work. So we get rid of that, and that is why if you look over here we have the adapter set I was talking about before, because it's going to have this one little piece here, which is what you're going to need, possibly this guy. I'm not sure because yesterday I didn't get it till late, so we're going to find out together. Alright, again we tighten it up and it should start pulling it in.
Please show me how to write a car and a board.
There it goes. And you are seated. See how high up that came? That's why this cap is important, because the ones they try to give you with the original one is this. That will not work. So if you have a big 4x4, you got to get the adapter set with the ball joint press. Alright, so now that our ball joint is pressed in, we can install our little Zerk fitting, which is right back here. If you're wondering what a Zerk fitting is, it is the thing that you use to pump grease into it along the way, because if you don't pump grease into these every, I don't know, 40,000, 50,000 miles, you're going to end up having to replace them. Tightening up all your lugs, make sure they're all nice and tight, do it in a start pattern, however you want to do it. And that concludes how to fix the upper control arm ball joint and the lower control arm ball joint. Hope you enjoyed. Be back next time for the next fix.